Johannes, nice to meet you. Welcome to England.
Thank you.
Paddy Davitt, we're the local newspaper, Football Brands the Pink, and you probably hear that too many times for your liking this season, but it is what it is. Welcome anyway.
Thank you.
Just give us a sense of your first few days. I know you sort of, am I right in saying you sort of arrived to start work, as it were, this week?
Yeah, fantastic impression so far. Arrived on Wednesday, almost started working same day. We had some meetings, but also just for me to get a little around, see the facilities, see everything. The city is very, very lovely, especially in sunshine. I think it's a good time I arrived. But yeah, so far, so good, fantastic place.
I mean, I know you've been asked this once the news was confirmed, but why Norwich? I mean, we're obviously now learning a lot about you and your work at Norwich London, and I'm sure with the reputation you're building, there must have been maybe other opportunities, maybe interests that you could have explored. But why Norwich and why at this time of your career?
Yeah, because I'm driven by environments, facilities, ambition. Everything needs to be put together. A clear strategy, a clear plan, a clear structure. Where, of course, it's so important with the results in the weekend, but it's also so much more than only that. I had the feeling from day one I was here that the academy plays a huge part of everything being done here. So overall, that feeling with some fantastic people, great facilities, big ambitions, and that was the key in terms of driving me away from Denmark and Farm.
Yeah, and we know again, you've been with that club for so many years, and through your coaching journey. I mean, how tough a decision was it to leave not just that club but Denmark as well and try your career in England?
Yeah, but to be honest, it was tough. It was not easy just to sit down, and of course my family plays a big part in this as well. So it's not only me taking all the decisions, but sometimes I get crazy ideas and they just have to follow. So that's also a part of it. But of course, it took some discussions and conversations, and I also phoned some people that I know. One of them you also know, Steen Nedergaard, who played here for many seasons, to hear just about the city and the club and everything, and he had only praise about everything here. So at the end, it was, for me at least, quite an easy decision, even though in the beginning it was tough.
I mean, you touched on Steen now. I was going to ask you, because I'm sure as you were working through this process, you would have tried to get a sense of Norwich and England and the Championship.
Yeah.
Were there any other maybe Danish players or coaches with English experience you might have spoken to?
Then of course there's one in Brentford at the moment, which was very natural for me just to reach out to, and he's a fantastic person. So he actually phoned me more or less before I contacted him. So that was also natural, and him and I will have a meeting maybe next week, just discussing everything, both culture, country, family, club, the league. So everything about that, but he gave me a good impression, and Steen of course the same, because I think to be honest, and also to be fair to Steen, maybe he had his best years of his career here in Norwich, so he was the right person to reach out to.
I mean, it's important that you reference Thomas Frank, because he knows what it takes to take a team from the Championship out of the Championship, and then stabilise them in the Premier League. And does that feel like that is the brief here?
More or less, yeah. Of course, we have to get started, and I have to see both players, everything when we start first training days, pre-season. But my feeling is that we are in a good place. Great players, again, great ambitions, great facilities. So I think everything here is in place for us to reach out for what's even better than the Championship.
Talking of the players, I mean, what is, again, you'll have done your research now, I'm sure. What's your initial assessment of the squad that you've got to work with?
Great quality. I think there's a lot of great players. I think there's some exciting young ones coming up, and I think there's some experienced players where it's a high level, and you can see that it's important that we have a foundation with some of these experienced players, and then can support with the younger ones. But I think it ticks the boxes almost on every kind of player, young, experienced, high potential, great performers. So I think we are well covered.
There's a lot of people who have wanted to say this is your style of football, these are your footballing beliefs, this is what you now will try and implement here at Norwich. But you've got the floor here now. What are the core fundamentals of your coaching? What do you want your side to do?
From everything I do within coaching, we start with the ball. That's always how I see it. So everything we do goes around what we do with the ball, our positions, how we can be attacking in our mindset. Is always the ambition to score that next goal in the game. But doing that, we need to be dominant on the ball. We need to be comfortable on the ball. And we need to have great solutions to open up defenses, so we can create chances and we can score goals. That's the headlines, and then of course with more details into that.
Does it feel like because again you will have looked at maybe last season and the style of play, and does it feel like there will have to be a major shift this summer when you're working with the players, or more incremental maybe?
No, I will not say so. Of course there will be difference, and I hope also for you guys it will be obvious for you to see in the season, but it takes time as well. So we have to get started, and we also have to keep on building on some of the good stuff that have been made here. But yeah, I'm comfortable. I see players that are on a great level, and as I just said, I see experienced players, I see young players, but I see a lot of players that are comfortable on the ball. That they want to go forward, they want to attack, they have a high technical level. So I'm quite comfortable. We can start, and there will be changes, of course, and we'll play in a little bit different way from what you guys are used to see from Norwich. But I don't think it'll be that big a change from the beginning.
I appreciate that. Obviously, the players are here, there, and everywhere. You got some obviously off at the Euros. Have you had a chance to speak to any of the players? And if not, when you get them all together, start of next month, what will be the key messages you want to deliver when you first have those meetings?
Yeah, but there's a lot. I haven't spoken to some of them yet. I think we reach out within the next couple of days, also with the respect for some of these guys being at the Euros and having their thoughts elsewhere, maybe, which is of course understandable. But no, the first meeting will be around the culture that we try to create, the environment that we have, how we train, how the day will look like, what we do, what the purpose will be from day to day, and of course eventually also how we're going to play and what the identity of the team will be.
In terms of, inevitably, you come in and you've got a lot of things on your plate, but there will be attention on the window, the transfer window. Would you have had discussions with Ben in the process of before you took the job and now since? I mean, we know Jose Cordova, you got that one over the line. Where do you see what you would like to happen for the rest of this summer in terms of Norwich and your squad?
Yeah, but listen, to be fair, I have a lot of conversations with this guy. He's more or less on top of my list in terms of phone calls, even more than my wife, I think. So, of course, a lot of conversations. But to be fair, I see great potential in the squad. So also for me as a coach coming in, I don't think it would be the right way to say, okay, we need this and this and this. I will give a fair chance to the players and see what we can do. And then, of course, the first game is in the beginning of August. So we also have time to see here in pre-season if there's something that we need to invest in. But to be fair to the players, I see great potential. So I actually prefer to start working with them instead of finding other players. Sure.
And on that specific point, and I don't want to sit here and bombard you with this name, that name, but Adam Eder, there's an example of a player who went out, had a good loan at Celtic.
Yeah.
I think it's no secret that there may be a sense in Scotland they might like to do something this summer. But with him, with all these players, is it very much, no, I want to bring them into the building, have a look at them, make an assessment and take it from there? Yeah, and definitely also with that guy. Yeah, what do you make of him then? As a type of profile as well? He's an exciting player, and he's from here, and he's been in the club so many years, and can do dangerous stuff up front. He's fast. He moves well. Get into these areas in the box where you decide the games. So definitely, I will have a look at him. I think otherwise would be stupid. And on terms of the young players, Ben very clearly driven a process there where quite a few of them went out and got loan experience lower down the league. Yeah. Players like Abu Kamara had very good successful loans, and one or two others. Again, with those, they'll come in first day of pre-season, and will the message be, look, impress me, and if you do, you can be quite close to my first team plans this season? Yeah, I'm not sure I would use that exact language, but I prefer to tell them that they are part of the squad actually, and then we find out, like with all the other players. The closer we go to the first game of the season, I have
a picture of how the squad will look like and so on, and then we find out. But my message to them will be that now they're here, and of course do whatever you can, show your best in training, show your best every day, and but your feeling, your attention should be that you're actually an Norwich player, and you're here to perform, and you're here to show what you can do, and you're here to compete for a position in the starting 11 for the first match of the season.
I think you did a little interview in the Danish media when it was all confirmed, and you sort of say you didn't feel that this season. Yes, we know, everybody knows that the club is geared up to try and get back to the Premier League and then stay there. But you didn't think this first season that would necessarily be what you'd be measured by. Does that almost send maybe a signal that it's going to be a transitional period and it might take a little bit of time to get to where you need to get to?
I would say with a club on the size of this, the ambition should always be to go up. That's just how it is. Then of course in football, with 24 teams in the league also competing more or less everyone for one of the 3 spots where they go up, then it's tough, it's a hard job, but I think the ambition is there and that should always be the driver for us. Then let's see, of course, as I mentioned, there will be changes, but hopefully not too big, so we can perform while we are also building. That will be important. So I hope that we can definitely compete. That's also the feeling that I have, and also when we have conversations around the team, that's where we see the team. So hopefully we can build while we are also performing in the league. But that will be a hard job, but that's also why it's exciting.
Yeah, I think you've said that in previous interviews in terms of, because there's a lot of people looking at you and seeing that you really believe in young players, giving them opportunities, but that's fine, but they also need to come in and be good enough to be in a team that can win games, and that's very much the message. Yeah,
definitely. And if you look at my team in Nordsjælland, we had experienced players on almost all the critical positions in the team, the goalkeeper, the centre-back, the midfielder, the striker, where that was really the core of the team, and then you can add on with the younger ones, but my captain in Nordsjælland was 35, and I was speaking to him a lot, together with the rest of the coaching staff, but he really had a voice on pitch as well, because that is just important, and also with experience from this tough league, I think it's going to be important for us as well.
And you'll be well aware, I think you've already spoken about it in your first club interviews, that this club is quite unique in terms of the fan base and the part of the world it is in England, and it breeds that real loyalty. 22, 3, 4,000 season ticket holders every season, doesn't matter what league they're in.
Yeah.
What would be your message to them at the start of this journey?
What
buy-in do you want?
But listen, I hope that everyone knows, and it seems like you do. It's a fantastic place. It's a fantastic city. It's a fantastic club, and just to feel that support from day one is like when we entered the airport here in Norwich. We could feel that support. We went out last night to have a dinner. We could feel that support. So it's for us, of course, to respect that and to be able to give back, because there's so many good things going on here, and that's for us to keep building on that and keep working on that.
Was you watching? You didn't spoil your dinner watching that England game.
I was watching that.
I suppose from a Denmark point of view, yeah. But just final one from me. What does success look like for you this season? How would you measure it?
Yeah, it's always a little bit tricky to measure. I think the success will be that we implement the way that we want to play. That we are very, very clear. We show a clear identity from game to game. So even though, because there will be losses on the way, we will lose games, but everyone can see, okay, it's a Norwich team performing, and that will be important. And while doing that, of course, that we can compete in the league. That's the 2 main objectives for me. Thank you.
Sky,
Yeah.
and then you'll come back for Ben. Yeah.
Hi, Johannes. James Lewis, Sky
Hi.
Sports News. Hi, Ben, as well.
Hi, James.
You've spoken a lot about possession-based philosophy. That's something you're really keen to implement here at the club, it sounds like. But do you feel like you have the right personnel at the moment? I know you said you want to assess the squad and see how they look, but are you looking at areas, are you and Ben both looking at areas of the pitch to try and recruit already this summer?
I think it would be not professional enough of us if we're not looking where we can improve. But like I said, also to be fair to the players, I see great potential, and I see high quality from all the players. So I think they are more than capable of playing this. Of course, something will be new to them. There will be new methods of training, new ways of preparing for matches, maybe also new demands. And that's just how it is in football. But I see great potential. I see great skills from a lot of the players. So I think they are more than capable.
I'm sure the players will be pleased to hear you say that and looking forward to working with you as well. But there must be, recruitment must be on your minds this summer, of course. Are there any specific areas that you feel like you need to strengthen?
Again, to be respectful, I will prefer to wait and see. Again, I'm also a coach where it's not that important for me, and Ben will also find out that I will not be ringing him all the time and say we need this and we need this and we need this and we need this, because a part of my job is also to develop football players. And I think that even though you're 35, with the right mindset and great ambition, you can still improve, you can still be better. So when we talk about development, it's not only for 18-year-old players; it can also be for 26-year-olds or 31-year-olds, and that's a big part of my role. And I prefer to work with football players and train every day instead of being at the office and calling players that are not here.
Okay, and Ben, obviously, you've had a lot of phone calls with Johannes by the sounds of it. Do you mind me asking you, Ben, actually, what do you like about Johannes as a coach? Why did you want to bring him in?
Look, lots of reasons, to be honest. When I was, thinking about what we want this project to look like going forward, I think Johannes embodies everything that I had in my mind in terms of, number one, on a human level, to be fair. That's always the most important thing. We can talk all about playing styles and player development and all of those things, but the human side is so important in terms of values, bringing somebody into this environment in such a key role. We need to be confident about all of those things, and with Johannes we absolutely are. So I'd say that to start with, and then of course some of the things that I mentioned, clear and demonstrable playing style that really aligns with how I see football, how I think we can be successful here, but also how I think we can develop players that will then enable us to trade, and I think Johannes ticks all of those boxes. So for me it was, I'm delighted to get somebody that we think is such a nice fit, and we can really move forward in what I think is a new and certainly exciting sort of direction.
Is it fair to say that developing young players from the academy is something that you're both very aligned on? That's a really important thing for both of you. Is that fair to say, Ben?
100%. And listen, let's be clear. That's been done here in the past. It's not something brand new. But we think we can take that to a new level. And a coach like Johannes has got such a proven track record of doing that, playing a major part in that. He was developed himself through the pathway at a fantastic organisation, and of course we're super aligned on that. But as Johannes said as well, development of players isn't just restricted to young ones. It's every single player can improve and get better, and with an open mind and with a willingness to learn, we feel like we can light that spark in every single player. And I've seen that happen elsewhere at other times in my career, and I'm sure we can do it here again.
And Johannes, you've been a coach since you were 19, correct?
Yeah, sounds right.
9 years in Norwich, right?
Yeah.
So you've obviously had a lot of time as a manager, but from a young age as well. What lessons have you learned as a coach in your time at Northland, and sticking to this? Biggest lesson, I'd say.
A lot, I would say. It's an ongoing process being a football coach, and I'm not even close to be done. So many things to learn, but of course, especially when I arrived in Norwich, I found out, okay, the most important thing about being a football coach is the planning, is the structure, it's knowing where you want to go, and the method to go there. So you finally, at the end, can play the way that you wanna do that, and that requires a lot of preparation. It requires a lot of analysis, a lot of talks with the players, a lot of hours, I think. So. That's a big part of it, but I learned a lot, and I will still continue to learn, because that's also the way that I am. I'm curious, and some will say maybe never really satisfied. So there's always room for improvement. There's always details to dig into, so we can become as good as possible.
And do you have any sort of inspirations as a manager? I know guys talk about Thomas Frank, obviously with the Danish league, but are there other coaches that you look at?
Yeah, obviously he's done fantastic over here, and then some of these guys, where I tried always to find some clubs where they were maybe on the same level as where I came from. It's so easy to be carried away with, some of these clubs with a lot of money and these places. So I try to find some of these managers where they can actually do something with a little bit less. So I think Isardi, when he was in Napoli, was fantastic. Spalletti did fantastic as well. Ten Hag in Ajax was doing fantastic job. So I like to be inspired, and I try to watch as much as possible. So to find inspiration, but I try to find these places where they have to do a little bit extra, and they have to do a little bit different to compete.
Did you speak to any coaches, maybe in the Premier League or in the Championship, before you decided to take this job?
No, not really. I've been speaking to Thomas Frank, of course, and that's it. And then other coaches from Denmark with experience from abroad as well, but not specifically the Premier League. Also, not that many Danish managers so far in history in the Premier League and Championship.
And what sort of structural ideas and sort of things are you both working on at the moment going into the new season? What are the priorities for you, first of all?
Yeah, first of all, planning around pre-season, how we're going to train, how the day will look like, what the purpose will be for us here in the beginning, to implement the style of play from day one, because that will be important for us. There's a 6 weeks pre-season, which is, in my opinion, it's okay time, and we have the time to work with the players. But it's also important that we start from day one. So at the moment, it's planning around how we train, what the purpose will be from the first training day, and how we build on that style of play throughout the week, so we can be as competitive as possible when we start the first game of season.
And Ben, you've had a lot of phone calls with Johannes. Can you tell us any of those interesting chats that you've had? Anything about new signings potentially? Any areas to look at? I know Johannes says he wants to concentrate on the current squad, but that's something that obviously you'll be looking at quite closely, obviously.
No, of course, and look, that's always the balance for us. Like Johannes said, you know, we always want to be better, and I certainly wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't constantly looking at how can we improve what's out there. But at the same time, you know, we're crystal clear. We've got a lot of quality here in the building. There's zero doubt about that. We're excited about what we can do with this group. There's so much talent in there. Like Johannes said before, we've got lots of different types of players, different age profiles, real quality, real experience, players that have played at the absolute top level. You look now, the number of players that we've got away competing at the highest level for their international side. So, yeah, it's always a balance. Of course, there's some areas that we're looking at, but it's so important. You know, Johannes hasn't had a first session yet. He needs to get in there and feel and see these players, and of course that's going to play a part in decisions that we may or may not make.
And just finally for me, Johannes, I know you said that you watched the England-Denmark game yesterday. What did you think about the game and the goal from Denmark? A very nice goal. And how far do you think Denmark can go in the competition?
I think, of course, when it's Euros like that, when it's so much about that specific game, I think we can go far, but of course it also requires a little bit of luck, and that's just how it is. I think we performed well yesterday, where there was some discussion around the first game and so on, but I think yesterday was a good performance, and I think that gives us a little bit hope for the last one in the group stage, and hopefully we can make it. And then, you know, when you are there and it's knockout stage, then everything can happen. But I see great potential in the squad, so I hope that we can have a great summer.
Cheers, guys. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Donny, anything?
Yes, can I ask you about your assistant who's
Yeah.
joining you as well?
Yeah.
How did that partnership come about?
I sat down with the people supporting me, and we spoke about who could actually be supporting me also as a coach here. So we threw some names on the table and discussed it, and actually quite fast we decided that Glenn will be the main guy for us to pursue. So I had a phone call with him, I met with him and had a fantastic afternoon with him, and we discussed football and training and ambitions and everything. I know him obviously from the past and from training courses in Denmark and so on, and he's been with the federation as a youth coach as well. So we've been talking a lot. So I knew him, and with his experience building a culture also with an eye for academy players, building a clear bridge between academy and first team and so on. So it was actually quite not easy, but he was the first choice.
Yeah. And you talk about culture.
Yeah.
How is that going to be implemented here?
Of course, I think, again, to be fair, there's a great culture already. From what I hear and from what I see, there's a great environment, players that want to do that little extra. I haven't met them, but I hear that there's still players on the training ground, even though they're supposed to be off, but doing that little extra. Great people around the club. So to be fair, it's small areas where we can see if we can improve or do a little different or whatever. But to keep on building what is already here.
Any BBC, anybody?
Wait for it.
All right, we'll jump outside and do yours after.
Thanks,
Paddy, Connor, back to you guys.
Ben, if I can throw a few at you, nice to see you, mate.
You too.
Can you just give us, without obviously going into the forensics of it, but how detailed a process this was that led to obviously Johannes being into it?
It was a huge effort from a lot of people at the club. I think we looked the world over, to be honest, Paddy. In this day and age, we have access to a lot of great information, and it allows us to be so thorough in the way that we can work. We had a clear profile and list of criteria that we were looking for, and then we looked all over the world and filtered down from all the coaches that fit the criteria and filtered constantly and to arrive at what we felt was a really high quality group of individuals. But it was clear, for me from an early point that Johannes was a fantastic fit for everything that we were looking for. But yeah, it's a big piece of work, but a fantastic outcome for us, and we're pleased with the way that it was executed. I think we were quick, and it allowed us to ultimately arrive at this place in as timely a fashion as possible.
And I think you said in your first answer earlier that the human element is very, very important for you in terms of that process. I mean, did you get that sense once you were obviously able to speak to Johannes and the people around him that on a human level that this was a guy who could come in and really get the culture of what you're trying to drive?
100%. And look, you can do a lot of work on that from afar as well. We go into so much detail looking at interviews, every time Johannes has spoken, key things that he's done in the past, things that you can pick up from speaking to the people that are around him. That's always often I find that the people that are around a player or a coach in this case, they're an extension of them, and you can feel a lot from that as well. So yeah, we were getting good signals throughout, and then as you said, when we were able to speak, all of those positive feelings and sort of ideas that I had about what he was like were just confirmed, and it was clear for me that we were looking at somebody that fits exactly what we want, is upwardly mobile in terms of his trajectory of development, which is key. And yeah, I think it's an exciting match for where we are, and a really great moment for us to move into this new direction that I think everyone can hopefully get behind.
Did you have to give him the hard sell, or did you find him quite receptive to the vision that you were building?
No, look, I think we're really proud of our club, and I think, to be honest, it's like Johannes said, it's a big club. It sells itself in many respects, of course. For any head coach, it's important for them to hear clarity around our vision, our direction of travel, the structure, the stability, all things that this club, I think, can speak really proudly of. So yeah, I think I didn't have to sell too hard, but at the same time as well, I think it's important that I can give Johannes clarity as well as everybody else in terms of the way that we want to move. But yeah, I felt quite quickly that the feelings that I had around Johannes being a great match here, I felt that they were reciprocated, and that's what you always want in any relationship.
Yeah. Can you permit me just to ask you one about making that change, because it's the first time we've spoken to today. I mean, you've talked again today, you talked when obviously you made the decision to part company with David that you felt you needed to go in a different direction. I mean, did you just feel over the 6 months or so you were working with him that maybe in those key areas that alignment wasn't quite there with David?
Yeah, look, David's a fantastic head coach, there's no doubt about that. He's a fantastic person, and he's a fantastic head coach, and what he's achieved in his career speaks for itself. But I think where we are in our journey and our evolution in this club, I felt we needed something new and a little bit different in terms of playing style, in terms of pathways, openness, developing youth players, really giving a platform to some of the talent that we've got in our environment. So yeah, in respect of those things, I felt that something different was required. I spoke at the start when I first arrived at the club. The kind of football that I enjoy, my ideas of the game. That doesn't make them right, but that's kind of, I guess, I'm a product of the environment I spent a long time in, and that's the kind of football that I like to see, and I think it aligns really well with where we want to go as an organisation, right from the top, from ownership all the way down. So yeah, I felt there was a little shift needed, and like I said, I think Johannes embodies exactly the direction that we want to move.
We know the model. It's very clear in terms of it's a self-financing proposition. You've spoken again today that one of the key attributes from Johannes is you can develop players, and then ultimately, maybe in the shorter to mid-term, it's your first team, but then you might need to trade. I mean, moving back to this window, are you in that cycle? Do you need to sell? Do you have to sell this window?
Look, there's always pressure on us here because that's, like you said, that's our model. Whether we have to or we don't, we want to. That's what we define as success as well. Of course, we always want to build a team that can win games and get promotion, and that's of course always going to be the ambition. But as well as doing that, in order to be sustainable, we have to trade. So we put pressure on ourselves to do that, and every summer's no different in that respect. So yeah, that's kind of where we are, and of course lots of conversations ongoing at the minute. But it's so important that Johannes gets that chance to look at the squad and evaluate as well, and we'll be speaking as we do continually all the way through the window.
We know that Johannes has mapped out again today. He wants to look at all the players he's got, bring them into the building, and make his own assessments. So how would that situation evolve? If there's, and we all know who the players are who might attract interest this summer. The Rose, the Sargents, the Saras. But if he came to you in the course of this pre-season and maybe was keen to work with these players, how would those discussions work within the backdrop of the self-financing model?
They're the conversations that happen between a head coach and a sporting director every day. That's what it is. The dynamic between these two roles is so important. We do that on every level, whether it be around players, whether it be around pre-season plans, whether it be around our environment, changes we may or may not want to make. That's always the way that we work. Our relationship here is about trying to push each other, challenge each other. We want to get better. So yeah, as ever, it would just be a conversation and ultimately trying to arrive at what we think is the best thing to do for the organisation.
Can I just ask you, what a young player, because there is a contract situation now at Knapper, is there any update there? Is there a sense that we might be able to get on the same page with the player?
Yeah, look, it's nothing's done yet, so I think it would be remiss of me to talk too much about it, but we're in a really good place. I think, there's a few details still to finalise, but I'd like to think that we'll get to where we all want to be on that one sooner rather than later.
And just because it popped up yesterday, a report about Andy Hughes and potential Premier League interest, and there may have been contacted. Can you just give any clarity around his situation?
Again, similar to the last question, nothing is done. There's still, conversations ongoing around that. But what I would say is, Andy's a fantastic person for a start and a great coach. He's somebody that we value a lot here. He's played a big part. He's done fantastic work. And look, if something does get finalised, he would go with absolutely our very best wishes. But we're not there yet. But again, let's see how things develop in the coming days.
Okay, obviously we're at the hypothetical stage still. Maybe it's one for Johannes, but would that necessitate maybe changing your backroom team a little bit? Would you have to bring somebody in if he went?
We'd look at it, of course. Like I said, Andy adds a lot of value. Everyone can see the season just gone, the impact that he made around set pieces. So yeah, absolutely. If we get to that stage, then we need to have a conversation around how that looks. But yeah, I think it would be highly likely that we'd look to add something there. But again, it's not even happened yet. So we need to just let things play out and then react from there.
A couple more if I can, Ben. I thought it was quite interesting on the behind the scenes video with Cordoba. I think you turned to him and said you've been in 6 months and it felt like you've been here 3 years. I mean, can you assess your rate of progress in that period of time? Yeah,
look, it's an intense role, right? There's a lot of focus on the club, and yeah, I mean, when I look back now at mid-November when I joined, which was a little over 7 months ago, it feels a long time. A lot has happened. Things change quick in this game. it's an intense league. You know, I saw that myself. I think when I signed the contract to join this club, we were maybe 5th in the league, and by the time that I walked through the door, we were 17th. So you get a sense there of how fast things can change. And then, of course, to make the finish that we made was fantastic. So lots can happen, which makes it feel like you've travelled, you know, a long way in what can sometimes be a short time. But what I would say is, been in the building now just over 7 months, but yeah, this is a really exciting step that really feels like the start for me.
Just very final point. That said, and Johannes was very clear today, this next season isn't a transition one. It's not internally being looked at that way. You know, you want to win games. You feel you've got a group of players who are good enough to be in and around that conversation. But underpinning that, is it a little message that maybe patience might be required to the fan base?
Yeah, of course. Look, we're going to try and make a lot of changes in terms of playing style, the way that we want to, you know, implement a structure that we think can set us up better to achieve what we want to achieve in terms of performances and results, but also in terms of developing players, and that takes time. It's not easy to do. There's not loads of coaches out there that can do it well, and the reason for that is because it's difficult. So listen, I've lived through that in my previous club, where things can take time, and you know, with young players, for example, we know that there's always challenges, there's inconsistencies in performance. That's what comes with the territory of trying to develop players, trying to implement an ambitious sort of style of play with a high level of control. So yeah, of course, we're ambitious. We feel like we've got a group that can win and hit the ground running, but also we understand that there's going to be bumps in the road, and you know, I'd like to think that everybody else can understand that too, and our responsibility is to build a team and show a team on the pitch every week that people understand what we're doing, they can relate to, there's an identity there, and hopefully that'll allow people in those difficult moments to afford us that patience, because at least they'll be able to see and feel something, and that's so important, and that's our responsibility. We take that so seriously, and that's what we're focused on every day to deliver.
Best of luck.
Thank you.